This is greytFM.
COVID-19 and the global pandemic aside, the world keeps changing. Trends come and go in every aspect of life, personal and professional. And I'm sure as HR professionals, we know that better than most people, don't we? Hi, folks. Welcome to another edition of greytFM, the official podcast series from greytHR. While I've said that, it isn't to say that the pandemic didn't catalyze change to an unprecedented extent. And, industry after industry first grounded to a halt and then worked around their own limitations. And I don't think it's appreciated enough that HR departments around the globe had to really think on their feet and stay ahead of the curve in order to really just fight off chaos. Because we're talking about coordinating worldwide business with hundreds, thousands, and even hundreds of thousands of employees. So innovations in HR related tech have played a significant role in helping businesses across the world overcome the challenges that the pandemic threw at us. So in today's podcast, we're actually discussing some of those advantages that HR tech has utilized to ride out the COVID-19 pandemic and carry us into the future. And bringing some insightful perspectives to the table today is our guest, Colin Mendes, the head of human resources for Voltas Beko, a joint venture between Voltas and Arcelor. In his current role, Colin is building talent that brings everyday happiness to each household in India, a very, very big responsibility on his shoulders, and he's doing it with a lot of expertise. In fact, his expertise has been regularly sought at conferences, forums, institutions, and knowledge centers like CII, Economic Times, SHRM, People Matters, World HRD Congress, IIT Delhi, and other management institutions who regularly invite him to share his perspectives. And now he's joining us today on this edition of greytFM. Perfect person for us to be talking to. Thank you so much for joining us today, Colin.
Thank you, Alia. And it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you today.
And, so much that we have to talk about. And that brings me to my first question today. In 2021, 81% of C-suite leaders said that they would not have been able to operate effectively during the pandemic without HR technology. 89% of the C-suite and 83% of HR leaders said HR technology enabled them to be more flexible and responsive to changing needs while helping businesses become more resilient. So if we're to break them down into simpler points, what benefits did HR tech actually provide? Could you pin those down for us?
Absolutely. In fact, Alia, you mentioned the new normal, but I think we are actually back into the old normal. And I think today we are celebrating the spirit of really thriving despite adversity. Mm-hmm. And leveraging technology to make both work and life far more better. And today, technology has undoubtedly really contributed towards really improving efficiency, driving cost savings by automating repetitive tasks, critical business challenges, exponential performance improvement, and really impacting business outcomes to a large extent. The benefits that I see are significant. And to me, I think, one of them that comes top of mind is really about improving the recruiter's efficiency through more and more efficient and focused recruitment efforts, in the form of tracking time and scheduling and so on and so forth. And I think technology really comes in a big way. The second really is about improving talent experience. Yeah. And to my mind, it's all about personalized and individualized onboarding and employee development because, everyone wants something that's more in it for them. And the third, to my mind, is about improving talent intelligence, where you're using data, you're using information, you're using things like document management and so on and so forth to really, extract and draw insights and really predict things like attrition, retention, engagement levels, learning, and workforce analytics, if I were to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that term that you've penned down, which is talent intelligence. I think that is definitely a new aspect that is being explored a lot. That brings me to the involvement of AI in HR tech now. We hear a lot about, people analytics, big data analytics, and AI has been a huge revelation or player when it comes to this, right? Absolutely. We all expected that AI, ML would be beneficial, but I think its role has been unprecedented in the past 2 years at least. So what, according to you, are the implications of AI and AI, ML in today's HR landscape, and how, to what extent does it need to be implemented?
Yeah, in fact, Alia, AI and ML and DL, if I were to also add to that,
Right.
which is deep learning, really contributes to a lot of technology change that we are all witnessing. A lot of it today, to my mind, is also misunderstood by many. But I think AI is really fueling the HR transition, really from how it evolved or how it really started from an administrative function to a more strategic function to today a far more critical business driver. Yeah.
Right.
And if I were to pick on really few areas where AI has been able to make significant impact, the first that comes to my mind is really about getting talent that will make a difference.
Right.
Yeah. The second to my mind is about really creating a more seamless employee experience. And this is today is a really critical differentiator for creating a larger value proposition. And I think we all talk about performance. And to me, a large part of it really goes towards providing real-time feedback. How many of us really get that? Yeah. Real-time feedback, whether it's annual, it's half-yearly, it's quarterly, it's almost daily.
Yeah.
You know? And I think, there are tools that are there that really enable this entire process to move quicker. And AI, to me, really can make a bigger difference if utilized well, if invested wisely, and if it is the right thing to take forward.
So basically, seamless operations, the potential for personalization and also
Absolutely.
for career growth. That's interesting. And, Colin, you touched upon this personalization aspect in real-time data. And that's what I want to focus on now, because I feel that it is like a pretty debated topic in the HR landscape.
Yeah.
In fact, a Gartner analysis from last year showed that 16% of employers used technologies more frequently to actually monitor employees through methods like virtual clocking in and clocking out, even tracking, computer usage, employee emails, in internal communications or chatting. And, some companies, I think, use technology to track productivity, and others monitor employee engagement with technology, right, to better understand employee experience. But this kind of involvement of technology in our personal lives is something, whether it's HR or just general life, is something that is always up for debate. So do you think that, this kind of HR tech is a bit too intrusive, or is it necessary in, the initial stages to better understand and create a proper process and structure?
So let me ask a similar question back to you. How many of us really like to be watched when we are not looking? Yeah.
I think the answer to that would be 0%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So really coming down to answer this question, I think it really depends on the job. It depends on the role we are really referring to. And finally, what are we really driving? What are we really trying to get out of this?
Right.
It's performance. It's performance that we are really driving. But I think the important thing is to really relook at your entire measure of performance and bring in more agility into the performance management system or the performance measurement system and re-engineer those to make them more outcome based. It's not about policing people. It's not about, monitoring people, but it's about getting work that's done. Last 2 years when all of us worked in different locations, in different houses and in different cities, we all realized we were very productive. Business carried on. Companies still were able to deliver what they were to deliver. It really depends on the role. It depends on the job. And if you ask me, for all managerial jobs or management roles, it's not about really transactions. It's about moving the needle forward. It's about making a difference to the business, and it's about greater, contributing to a larger business outcome.
Yeah, and I think this also might not be a very tangible sort of concept, but it definitely speaks to like a culture of trust that you're, inculcating within your organization. If you find the need to sort of constantly monitor people and people feel watched, I don't think that would help too much with the trust quotient.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
You're listening to Great FM.
And, the other thing, I touched upon this in the beginning of our conversation today, Colin, which was that HR tech has the potential to sort of impact and affect every aspect of, business operations, right? And one is communication. And I think tech innovations actually positively impacted communication during the pandemic, especially. So, do you think communication advancements have been probably the best thing to come out of this difficult period for most businesses?
Absolutely. If you ask me today, technology or tech has really helped bring the entire world much more closer, despite we all being apart. And today, we all feel that, we can talk to friends, we can talk to relatives, wherever they are. So there is no doubt about it that, technology has brought the world more closer. But from a business standpoint, because we're talking more about, how has it affected business? How has it enabled communication? I think it's enabled the business community to business continuity to happen to a very large extent.
Right.
It's also helped teams work seamlessly, get together, collaborate. I think there are significant advantages. And today, if you look at it from a larger lens, it's also been more cost efficient for the organization.
Right.
Earlier, a lot of people travel for meetings, and there was a huge cost that went into people traveling, hotels, and so on and so forth. Now, a lot of us get together on meetings like this, and we are able to also solve issues more real time, rather than wait for a particular event to happen or wait for a particular review to take place.
Yeah.
So I think there is significant benefit. And I think whatever has taken place, irrespective of what's happened, technology has really enabled us to work significantly better from where we are. And communicate far more real time, and enabled us to be far more in there and in that moment.
Right. Colin, I feel like you're reading my mind a little bit because you keep giving me the most perfect segues and to go into my next question.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, you did touch upon remote work just now, and I do want to talk about that as well, because undoubtedly HR tech has impacted the ability to seamlessly carry out remote work, And I guess my question to you is this: do you think that HR tech wants to enable hybrid mode of work as the new normal and the new status quo, or do you think it has other aims?
So, rather than me talk about hybrid work, let me try and answer this in a far holistic manner.
Yeah.
And Alia, to me, it is going forward, I see newer work models that will really emerge. Yeah?
Okay.
There's been a shift in the workforce mix. And earlier we had more traditional roles where we had employees on rolls, we had contracts, we have trainees. But today it's far more contemporary. Yeah, we're talking about hybrid. We're talking about people working on site, working virtually or remotely, offshore work. We're talking about shared services, flexi hours, gig, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Now, this independent talent really going forward will constitute almost about 15% of the workforce. Okay. And to my mind, it will grow far more larger over time, because this is the kind of talent that organizations want to use, because it gives a whole lot of flexibility for two people. One, to the organization in terms of when they need resources and when they are able to deep dive into talent, or when they need specialized services which they don't necessarily need to keep for themselves.
Okay.
And for the individuals, it's also win-win, because they have the opportunity to work with various minds from different organizations. They have flexibility in what they want to do. So there is significant benefit from there. Yeah. And I think control and flexibility is really the core of hybrid work. So how you're able to control what you want to keep within will really enable hybrid work to really thrive. And there are two big values that we need to keep in mind: the value of flexibility and the value of office space.
Right.
Because this is really most important, because that is going to be the game changer or the driver into what is the work model that I want to use, and what is the work model that I want to adopt that will create a culture for my organization going forward.
Okay, all right. And, speaking of, Colin, so we've covered work flexibility, we've covered communication, we've covered talent recruitment, and general business health. But I also want to focus now on employee engagement as we, come to an end of this conversation. Employee engagement, even before the pandemic, was one of HR's primary concerns, right? Like you said, employee delight, making sure that your employees are feeling good about where they're working and are actively engaging with management and the work at hand. Has HR tech benefited employee engagement, or does it prove to be a tool that can accelerate employee engagement or actually increase it, or is it just another additive that we're going to try to make the most out of?
No, employee engagement, I think I must say, has really evolved. It's evolved to developing a culture of listening, that drives positive and business outcomes. Because really, why do we need engagement? Why do we need a positive engagement? It's for really driving business, driving positive outcomes. It's helping to really build employee trust, and in turn, better customer experience, and of course, productivity within the team, within the system. So today there are a number of solutions really to engage employees irrespective of locations. And as I mentioned earlier, it's brought the world closer. Besides that, it's also given you the resource bank of high qualified people to really be a part of this of the system. And help really create insights that are truly actionable for people. So there are numerous employee engagement platforms that have come over the period of time. But I think, it really empowers talent to connect, to grow, and to thrive for a period of time. And if you see the last 2 years, we have enabled people from different locations to really come together, connect on various occasions, whether it's related to wellness, whether it's related to just communicating about what's happening in the business, to communicating about, something that we truly love and enjoy. So that's really, to me, a platform to connect, to help people grow in skill, in experience, and of course, to thrive and do far more better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you just briefly touched upon, this entire idea of even just learning and development powered by HR tech is going to be absolutely delightful to watch. We've already, I think, taken leaps when it comes to that aspect of things. But definitely, employee engagement is going to just keep evolving and perhaps getting better and better. Because like you said, I mean, with personalization, it just does become easier to reach out to people as well, right?
Correct, absolutely. But I think I must mention this one point as we, it's irrespective of tech. It's important to maintain that personal touch. So infusing touch into tech, I think, is very important, because after all, we're all human beings, and we need to interact with each other on a face-to-face basis. So I think incorporating touch into tech will really power tech far more stronger.
Touch into tech. Colin, I think you've given us the tagline from this conversation today. What a wonderful note to end things on. Some really valuable insights that you brought to the table, and thank you for bringing all the wealth of your experience to this conversation. I think our listeners will agree that it's been a very, very beneficial conversation to listen into. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Alia. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. Truly enjoyed our conversation.
This is greytFM.